Hi everyone, Steve Tickinen here. This is my new little thing that I'm going to do. So this is season 1, episode 1 of Pissing in the Wind. Basically, I'll be talking about different areas concerning weightlifting that's occurred over the last month. So some of the topics will be weightlifting related, as far as the Oceania, world, whatever sort of happening at the moment with what I think is important. So let's get on with it. So I have a computer sitting in front of me, which you can obviously see with the reflection of it on my glasses. So they're just my cheat notes. So generally I'll talk about anything from 1 to 6 things at a time. So with this introduction, this is topic 1 being that introduction. So let's get into it. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is the IWF and its major issues about really holding the sport to ransom and not allowing the athletes to have a say. Sure, there's an athletes commission, but that was only put there sort of, I think, as a token. I don't believe that the powers to be that are on the current IWF board really want the Athletes Commission to be there. And as you have heard, as same as I have heard, that Sarah Davies was not very welcomed onto that board and basically was talked down to and totally disrespected. So there is huge chaos. The IOC have warned the IWF that if they don't get their act together as far as reforming the constitution and so forth, that weightlifting will be booted by 2024, so Paris, which is really just 2 years away. So the weightlifting side of things, meaning the IWF, really need to have a look at what they're doing. Now, the Oceania region, they're not holding any competitions until after the Olympic Games. We saw that the Europeans were held, we saw that the Asian Championships were held, we saw that Pan American Games were held. There were all sorts of issues about the location of the African Championships, yet it turns out that none of those competitions will be added into the Roby points to allow these lifters to put those points in to allow them to qualify further for the Olympic Games. So absolute waste of time. And again, if you read the reports from China, they complained about it, stating, well, they spent absolute megabucks to get to the Asian Championships and put everyone at risk of getting COVID, yet none of those results are going to count to the Tokyo weightlifting qualification system in the Roby points. So there are issues there. Now, I have a theory. Now, the theory could be completely wrong, but let's just hear me out. If the IWF believe that the Games, the Olympic Games, 2020 Tokyo Games, are not going to run, then they're basically playing a big gamble. And me personally, I don't think the Tokyo 2020 Games should run. Just as a side note, I think what should happen is it get cancelled. The 2024 Paris Games go ahead, no dramas there. Then the 2032 LA Games go ahead, no problems there. I know that Queensland in Australia is a front runner for 2036, but I think we should give those games to Tokyo. So Tokyo then get the 2036 Games, and then Brisbane, if they do win, can get the 2040 Games. Now I know that's a long time to wait, but Tokyo really needs an opportunity to run those games, and I personally don't think they should run, and if they do run, I don't think it's going to be a very good Olympic Games because there'll be a lot of athletes that won't be there. Look at Melbourne now, it's another shutdown. Tokyo's in its 4th shutdown. India's a mess. How are you going to have athletes going there? Anyway, so that goes on with my theory. The IWF may be playing a gamble where they believe that the 2020 Tokyo Games are not going to go ahead. Hence, they're going to hang on to the current board for as long as they can, right, and then deal with issues after the cancellation of the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games. So that'll give them the rest of this year, 2021, 2022 and 2023 to get their act together. Whether they favour the IOC recommendations or they don't, it at least allows them to empower themselves with more time, which is seriously what they're running out of. Obviously, all the weightlifters want everything changed prior to the Tokyo Games, but I don't see that happening. I think the IWF will hang on for as long as it can in its current situation. Anyway, that's my first point. Just to bring up another screen. We have also, continuing on from that, in our local region, we have issues with the Oceania Weightlifting Federation. So there are several countries within the Oceania Federation that are not very happy with the current running of the Oceania Weightlifting Federation and its elections and constitution and so forth, and they want those things changed. And that's very interesting as well, because as far as I know, back in the day when I had any involvement in this, the Oceania Weightlifting Federation was very stable. Now it's not. Okay, so the Oceania Institute of Weightlifting has moved into Melbourne, and Samoa, I know, have been running their thing for quite a long time on their own, but now there is some sort of rift within the Oceania Weightlifting Federation where there never was. So that's a very interesting set of circumstances that are starting to happen in our own region. There are quite a few vocal countries that are saying a few things that they're not happy with, and they've written to the IOC and the IWF, and it'll be very interesting to see what comes about it, okay? Purely because the Oceania is, again, a very stable federation, and now there are splinters occurring. Okay, so it's going to see over time what happens. And as I said in the beginning, the Oceania Weightlifting Federation were never going to hold their Oceania Championships until after the Olympic Games. Now, was that a political ploy or not? Okay, was that a decision made to deliberately hamper the IWF change in constitution and IOC with its threats to the IWF? I don't know. Okay, I don't know that. But it's an interesting area that now there is a rift. Next area that I'm going to bring up is about the Laurel Hubbard. Okay, so Laurel Hubbard from New Zealand, the transgender weightlifter. I must say, I was in full support of Laurel Hubbard when she first came on the scene as a transgender weightlifter from male to female, and I said that publicly on Instagram and other social media areas. I have completely changed my mind. I have done a 100% change, okay, a 180 turn, whatever you want to call it. I've done lots of research concerning testosterone, fetus, how long you've had testosterone as a male, all that stuff. Okay, I've read it all, and then the second part of that is the female athletes in that super heavyweight category complaining about how it's unfair to have a male transgendering into a female to compete against them. Now, there's a lot of emotion involved in this, and I'm not having any emotional reaction to this because, as I said, I was originally all in favour of Laurel Hubbard competing. I really didn't have any problem with it at all. However, with all the stuff that I've read and all the research I've done and listened to and read the reports that female athletes have put up, so read them, listened to them on podcasts and so forth, I'm now 100% convinced that Laurel Hubbard should not go to the Olympic Games as a female weightlifter. I put an example to you. Imagine having a super heavyweight male MMA fighter against a super heavyweight female MMA fighter, boxer, or any other pugilist that there is out there. How would that turn out? And I'm pretty sure everyone knows that the male would destroy the female in that situation, okay? And I don't think anyone would disagree with that. I don't think there would be any disagreement with that whatsoever. So this is exactly the same thing. We're putting somebody who has had testosterone running through their body, and if you read the science, it really starts in fetal stage, okay, and all the way through, and then you have the secondary area of where testosterone builds up again through puberty. And there's no doubt in my mind that Laurel Hubbard, no matter how low she gets her testosterone levels, she has still been bathed with testosterone and born with testosterone in her body at super maximal levels compared to a female at those neuromuscular junctions, if you've read the science. So I really do believe that Laurel Hubbard should not be allowed to go to the Olympic Games. And really, if the females want this to be corrected, female weightlifters, particularly the super heavyweight category, maybe there has to be a boycott. Maybe there has to be some way of indicating to the IOC and the IWF that we are not happy about this at all. And that can go all the way down to the Oceania Weightlifting Federation, to the New Zealand Weightlifting Federation as well, and even local club competitions in New Zealand. It's not for me to tell anyone what to do, but it may be a solution to the problem where you just boycott the competition. Now that's a big call to do if you're going to go to the Olympic Games, and so is Laurel Hubbard. You're not going to boycott it there, and she might only go to one Olympic Games and retire. Okay, I understand that. Or there might not be any Olympic Games ever again for weightlifting if things go the way they're going with the IWF and the IOC. But the point is, I now totally disagree with her going to the Games. Next area is a little bit of fun. Okay, not many people would know, or definitely the current crop of weightlifters in Australia probably don't know this gentleman. His name's Ronnie Laycock. I had the honour of knowing Ronnie when he was training with me at the Burwood PCYC. Great bloke, great Australian lifter. Went through a bit of a tough time just recently. Is slowly making a comeback, and I see here in the Tasmanian Examiner that Ronnie's back coaching. He's now coaching weightlifters. And look out, Australia, if Ronnie's starting to coach weightlifters, that's an awesome thing. So I wish Ronnie Laycock all the best. If you don't know who Ronnie Laycock is, go on to the YouTubes and the Googles and the social media, look him up, have a look at his numbers. He was one of the best weightlifters in Australia, especially with his clean and jerk. He was only a few kilos off the world record at one stage. Absolute brilliant weightlifter and a brilliant human being, and I consider him a friend of mine, and he can come to Oddsocks anytime he wants with his lifters once the COVID stuff's over and done with. So Ronnie Laycock, I wish you the best, and I hope you do really, really well now as the coach wherever you're coaching in Hobart, in Tassie, and I hope that the Tasmanian Weightlifting Association allows Ronnie back into the sport. I don't know if he's allowed in or not. I'm just saying if he's not currently in the sport, I hope he's allowed back in the sport, and we can use his knowledge to help Australian weightlifting continue to rise in world weightlifting ranks. My final note for today, for the first episode, is just a bit of advice. If you're a weightlifter and you're taking protein, make sure you're taking good protein. Make sure that you're taking protein that has branched chain amino acids in it. Make sure that the ratio is 2 parts leucine, 1 part valine, and 1 part isoleucine. And make sure that in that protein that you're drinking, it's whey protein, and make sure that that whey protein has at least 3 grams of leucine in it. Otherwise, you're really just wasting your money. So once again, whey protein with 3 grams of leucine in it is a good protein for you to take. And finally, to all the masters lifters, remember, we don't utilize protein as well as those young lifters, so make sure that your protein content is appropriate for your recovery from your hard training, because you as a masters lifter cannot utilize the protein that you take in as easily as all these young fellas. Okay, so whey protein, 3 grams of leucine, isoleucine and valine at a 2:1:1 ratio. Okay, so I'll see you guys in the future, and I hope you have a good month. See yous, bye.